Hey everyone, welcome back. Today we're going to be really taking a deep dive into this whole quiet quitting thing.
Yeah, it's definitely a hot topic. It seems like it's everywhere you turn these
It
days.
really is. So, what is it exactly? I mean, we hear all these different definitions and takes.
Well, one way to put it, and this is from Mark Bulger, is that it's essentially about meeting those job requirements, but, without going like above and beyond.
So, no more burning the midnight oil, no more being the office superhero.
Exactly. No more going that extra mile.
And it's not just like a few people doing this, right? I saw this crazy stat in the Wall Street Journal. They said 50% of the U.S. workforce is quiet quitting.
Wow, 50%. That's that's a huge EE number.
Yeah, it's like half the country. So clearly something's going on here. And we're going to try to unpack some of the reasons behind it. We've got 5 main areas we're going to look at.
Sounds good.
Let's start with this whole lack of career development thing.
Right. So I was reading some Gallup research, and it seems that one of the key things that make a great job, is whether the employer is actually invested in the employee's growth.
That makes sense. If I'm not learning or being challenged in my role,
Yeah.
how can I possibly stay motivated?
Exactly. And unfortunately, it seems like a lot of companies just aren't providing that. They're not stepping up to the plate.
So people end up feeling stuck, like they're in a dead-end job.
Yeah, and there was this research from Cruz back in 2022, and he actually found a direct connection between that feeling, that uncertainty about the future and a lack of engagement.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
If I don't see a path forward, why would I put in the extra effort?
And think about the psychological impact of that, right? Like you're in a dead-end job, no room for growth, you're just going through the motions. It's pretty demoralizing.
It really is. And that actually leads us to our next point, feeling undervalued. Right. I mean, how many times have we heard friends or colleagues complain about their boss just not getting it, lacking empathy?
Oh yeah, all the time. And it's more than just like not being seen, It's feeling like your contributions don't matter, that you're replaceable. Have you ever felt that way?
Yeah, definitely. I'm just another cog in the machine.
Exactly. And those command and control type organizations, they really seem to struggle with this.
The ones where it's all about following orders and hitting metrics, no room for individuality or creativity.
Yeah. And that can create, quite a toxic work environment. Actually, Meadows, O'Neill, and Lay did this study back in 2018, and they found a direct link between those types of cultures and abusive leadership.
Wow, no wonder people are so stressed out. I remember seeing this stat from Reich that said something like 94% of employees feel stressed at work.
It's a staggering number, right?
Yeah. And when you combine that pressure to perform with this feeling of not being appreciated, it's a recipe for burnout.
It makes you wonder if companies are really getting it, like what they're asking of employees versus what they're giving back.
Right, it creates this imbalance. And speaking of feeling disconnected, that's our next area to explore.
Oh, yeah. And I think this one is especially relevant now with so many people working remotely.
Yeah, it's about belonging. Like that fundamental human need to feel like you're part of something bigger.
It's not just about, being part of a company on paper, right? Employees need to feel informed, like they're included in decisions, that their voices are actually heard.
If I'm just working from home, isolated from my colleagues, and I don't feel connected to what we're doing, why wouldn't I start to disengage?
Makes sense, right? And there's research on this too. Lucetti and their team, this was back in 2020, they highlighted how much worse this isolation is for remote workers.
And then Clifton and Harder, their research found that this disconnection really hurts the whole company. Team morale goes down, productivity suffers. It's this domino effect.
Exactly. So it's not just an individual problem, it's an organizational one.
So how do we break the cycle? Well, maybe the answer lies in our next area. Craving autonomy. Being micromanaged. It's like someone's constantly looking over your shoulder while you're trying to work.
It's stifling, right? And it can make you feel like you're, not trusted to do your job.
Okay, but let's be clear about what we mean by autonomy. It's not about having zero oversight or doing whatever you want.
Right. It's about being trusted to achieve those outcomes in your own way, as long as it's within, the agreed upon values and goals.
And get this, there's actually research showing that giving people more autonomy can lead to better results.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Chiu and Chen found that employees with autonomy, they're more satisfied and they perform better.
So it's a win-win.
Exactly. Now, on to our final area for today, and this is a big one. The erosion of trust. And it's not just happening in the workplace. It seems like it's a bigger societal trend.
Yeah, it's pretty concerning, actually. The Edelman Trust Barometer, they track global trust levels, and it's been declining for years.
Yeah. And that includes trust in institutions, like workplaces.
Right. And when trust erodes, it just makes it so much harder to build those strong relationships to collaborate effectively.
And I think it comes down to this. Have you ever worked in an environment where you just didn't trust your boss or the leadership?
Oh, I have. And it's really tough.
It is, and it's more common than you might think. There was this study in the Harvard Business Review, and get this, 58% of people said they trust a stranger more than their boss.
Wow. That's pretty telling.
Right. Like, what does that say about the state of leadership? And then there's the impact on the individual. If you're not trusted to solve problems related to your own work, it's so demotivating.
Right. And Wasu Oko, and good luck, they did some research on this and basically found that it sends the message that you're not capable or competent.
Exactly. And in the context of quiet quitting, this lack of trust can be like the final straw. Like, why go the extra mile for someone you don't trust?
It doesn't make any sense.
So we've painted kind of a bleak picture here, but don't worry. It's not all doom and gloom.
Yeah.
In the next part of our deep dive, we're going to shift gears and look at some potential solutions to this whole quiet quitting phenomenon.
I'm looking forward to it.
Me too. Because they're IS Hope, and we're going to explore how we can create a better, more fulfilling future of work.
That's the goal. It's easy to get kind of caught up in all the negativity, all the doom and gloom around quiet quitting.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
But I think it's also like a chance to step back and see the opportunity here.
It's like a wake-up call, right? For everyone. I mean, for both employees and employers.
Yeah. Companies can't just keep doing things the way they've always been done.
Yeah.
And employees, they need to find your voice and really speak up about what they need.
And the cool thing is their research actually offers some real solutions.
That's good to hear. So it's not all just like complaining. There are actual things we can do about it.
Right. It's not about like some magic fix, but more about, shifting those mindsets and creating workplaces that are more, I guess you could say, human-centered.
Okay, I'm all ears. What are some of these solutions that, that could actually move the needle?
Well, the first one is all about accountability. Like, companies need to actually walk the walk, right? Not just talk the talk.
Right. Actions speak louder than words. It's like that study by DeSmet and their team at McKinsey. They found that companies that genuinely prioritize employee well-being, they actually have a better shot at attracting and retaining talent.
Yeah. And we're not talking about like ping pong tables and free snacks. I mean, those are nice, but
Right. It's got to be deeper than that.
it's about fair compensation,
Yeah.
benefits that actually meet people's needs, reasonable workloads, and a supportive environment, like where people feel safe to actually speak their minds.
Yeah, that psychological safety thing. We talked about that earlier with those, toxic command and control environments.
Right. But building a positive culture goes way beyond just avoiding the negative stuff.
So it's proactive.
It is. It's about actively cultivating respect, inclusion,
Mm.
and that psychological safety. It means creating a space where people feel like they can share their ideas, even if those ideas are, different or challenge the status quo.
Have you ever been in a workplace where you felt like you couldn't speak up? Like your ideas wouldn't be valued, or even worse, you'd be like ridiculed for them?
Oh, absolutely. It can be really stifling. And
It is. It's like all the creativity just gets sucked out of the room.
And there's research on this too. Garver did this study and identified like 5 hallmarks of a toxic workplace. It's things like disrespect, exclusion, unethical behavior, cutthroat competition, and abuse of power.
So those are the things companies really need to like actively work to eliminate. And it makes you realize like leadership plays such a huge role in all of this. If the people at the top aren't modeling those positive behaviors, I mean, how can you expect everyone else to?
Totally. There's this great book by Jim Clifton called Blind Spot, and his research basically found that creating a positive culture really does start at the top.
Leaders have to set the tone.
They do. It's about creating that space where people feel, heard, valued, respected.
Okay, so that's accountability and workplace culture. What's next on our list of solutions?
So number 3 is all about well-being. And again, we're not just talking about like perks and stuff.
Right. It's deeper than that.
It's about a fundamental shift in how we think about work and the employer relationship.
It's like that saying, you can't pour from an empty cup. If you're burned out, stressed all the time, I mean, you're just not going to do your best work.
Right. And it's in everyone's best interest to like create a sustainable work environment, one where people can actually thrive, you know?
Absolutely. Okay, solution number 4, and this one's a big one for me. Embracing diversity. I mean, when you have a team with people from all different backgrounds, with different experiences, it just brings so much to the table.
And it's not just about, doing the right thing. I mean, it makes good business sense, too. There's a ton of research that shows diverse teams are more innovative, more engaged, and ultimately more successful.
Makes sense. More perspectives, more ideas.
Exactly. And it's about creating a workplace where everyone feels like they belong, regardless of their background, their identity, their beliefs. It's about fostering inclusion, providing those opportunities for growth, and making sure everyone has a voice.
And breaking down those barriers that prevent certain groups from really thriving.
Absolutely. It's about creating that level playing field where everyone has a chance to succeed.
Okay, last but not least, solution number 5. Create meaningful work. So it's a bit more philosophical, I guess, but I think it's so important.
It is. At the end of the day, people want to feel like their work matters, that they're making a difference.
It's about purpose.
Right. And while some jobs are inherently more, meaningful than others, I think there's always a way to connect your work to a larger purpose, even in those, seemingly mundane tasks.
Like, even if I'm just answering emails all day, if I can see how that contributes to something bigger, it just makes a huge difference.
Exactly. And it's up to both the individual and the organization to, to find those connections.
Okay, so we've got our 5 solutions. Accountability, workplace culture, well-being, diversity, and meaningful work. But what does all this mean for, the listener, the person who's actually experiencing this quiet quitting thing firsthand?
That's a great question. And I think the most important thing to remember is that you have agency, whether you're the one feeling like the quiet quitter or you're the manager or somewhere in between. Understanding these root causes can really empower you to take action.
It's about recognizing that you have choices. You can choose to stay in a job that's not fulfilling, or you can look for something else. You can choose to accept things as they are, or you could choose to, advocate for change.
Right. And even if you're not in a position to, change the whole organization, you can still focus on creating a more fulfilling experience for yourself.
So what are some things people can do, on an individual level?
Well, setting boundaries is huge, making sure you're not, overworking yourself and burning out. And then, prioritizing your well-being.
Taking care of yourself.
Right. And then, maybe seeking out professional development opportunities to keep yourself challenged and expand your skills.
And what about, talking to your boss or your colleagues about these things?
Yeah, communication is so key. Having those open and honest conversations about, what's working, what's not. Express your needs, share your ideas, and work together to create a more positive and productive environment.
It's about collaboration. So to wrap up this part of our deep dive, I want to leave everyone with a thought to ponder.
Okay, sure.
Remember that research we talked about earlier about treating employees as valued partners?
Yeah.
So here's the question. How would your workplace change if that idea was truly embraced, really put into practice?
That's a great question. Imagine a workplace where everyone felt valued, respected, trusted to do their best work.
It's a powerful thought. It's amazing how much attention this quiet quitting thing has gotten.
I know, right? It's everywhere.
It's become this buzzword.
Yeah.
But I think it's really resonating with people because, well, a lot of folks are experiencing it firsthand.
Yeah, it's given a name to this feeling that's been, brewing for a while. And it's forcing us to look at some of the maybe not so great parts of work these days.
Totally. And it's not just about lazy millennials or whatever, it's a symptom of a bigger issue. Like we've been saying, it's about how we view work itself.
Yeah.
The whole relationship between employees and employers.
Yeah. One thing that really stood out to me in all the research was this idea of moving away from purely transactional relationships at work.
What do you mean by that?
Well, it's about recognizing that employees aren't just, resources. They're people with their own needs, their own goals, their own lives outside of work.
Right. It's about treating people like human beings, building relationships that are based on respect, on trust, where everyone feels valued.
Exactly. And it seems like that's often missing in a lot of workplaces.
Yeah. It's if you want engaged employees, you got to create an environment that, that supports them, invest in their growth, prioritize their well-being, give them a real voice in decisions.
It's like that saying, you get what you give, right?
Totally. But it's a two-way street too, right? Like employees need to step up as well.
Oh, absolutely. It's about, communicating openly, being clear about what you need, what you're struggling with, and advocating for yourself.
Working together to find solutions.
Exactly.
And remembering that it's a process.
Yeah.
Like there's no quick fix.
No magic bullet. It's about constant effort and, being willing to adapt and change.
So as we wrap up our deep dive into this whole quiet quitting thing,
Yeah.
I want to leave everyone with a sense of hope, I guess.
Yeah.
Yes, there are challenges, but there's also this huge opportunity, to create something better.
It's a chance to rethink work.
Yeah, to make it more, more human, more fulfilling, more sustainable for everyone involved.
Absolutely.
It's about finding that sweet spot where both individuals and organizations can actually thrive.
I think that's the key.
And I really believe that's possible.
Me too. It starts with, being willing to listen, to learn, to change.
So keep asking the tough questions, keep pushing for progress, keep believing that a better future work IS out there. That's it for this deep dive into quiet quitting, everyone. Thanks for joining us, and until next time, keep exploring.